Shall I start? Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon for those based in Thailand or anywhere else in Asia. Good morning for those of you who are based in Europe. Welcome to this webinar, where we will introduce you to the basics of blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies and illustrate the wide range of applications in a business setting. We have managed to line up a group of illustrious speakers from different countries, all from companies being leaders and I might say disruptors in their field of activity. We are also very happy to have Bitkub as a co-host for this event. As most of you may know, Bitkub is the largest cryptocurrency exchange in Thailand. Before we start, I want to thank Mr. Gabriel Batista of the Luxembourg Embassy and Mr. Peter Christian of the Flanders Investment and Trade Agency for their valuable support in tracing those disruptive companies in Luxembourg and Belgium. I also want to thank Khun Topp of Sukhothai Interlaw, who was instrumental in making this webinar possible. As we do have several speakers, we would like to have some spare time for discussion and Q&A. I would like to ask the speakers to try to respect the time limit for their presentation. When we came with the idea within Belutai to set up a webinar about this blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies, my first idea was to call it Blockchain for Dummies. But I quickly realized that if we called the webinar like that, no one would register. But the need to explain the basics of blockchain technology to business people is there. And we can see that due to the high interest in this webinar with over 200 people registering. We couldn't have found anyone better than our first speaker to explain those basics. Miss Emilie Allaert, based in Luxembourg, is the head of operations of the Luxembourg House of Financial Technology. She's a project leader at Luxembourg Blockchain Lab, and she is teaching at the University of Luxembourg, teaching classes about basics of blockchain and crypto assets and the digital transformation in accounting and tax. Emilie, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mark. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning. It's a pleasure for me to present today and give you the glimpse of blockchain. Sorry for those who already know about it. I'll try to make it accessible for everyone. So sorry if it's too basics for you. I'll share my presentation right now. So yes. So to give you a little bit of background first, what is blockchain, what is happening in this field? So first of all, the Luxembourg Blockchain Lab was created 2 years ago, and it has 4 goals. The first one is education and skills enhancement. We are now launching with the Ministry of Education in Luxembourg a dedicated curriculum for all the staffs that are interested in blockchain, be it the legal staff with dedicated trainings on the legal implication of blockchain, to IT people with specifically programming in blockchain. We're also quite active on the collaborative R&D, listening to the industry, their needs, and trying to find the perfect solution to meet their needs. And to do so, we're in collaboration with research centers. We're also developing POC, proof of concept, and minimum viable product support. To do so, we did a first call for project. We selected 7 projects, and we are now helping them to launch their solutions. And we're doing that in the future as well with the Luxembourg Sustainable Finance Institute, launching in March. And to do so, we have the lab that is dedicated to the SDGs, because that's one of the main focus of Luxembourg for the coming months and years. By doing these 3 main pillars, we hope that it will lead to a talent acquisition, and it could help the development of the Luxembourg blockchain place, and we hope to attract new talents, but it's also already bubbling, so we are just trying to support these developments. So let's go to the topic. Blockchain, you've all heard about it. There is always misleading comparison between blockchain, the technology, and blockchain used by the Bitcoin. And sometimes I hear people still misleading the others by saying that blockchain and Bitcoin are the same. Blockchain is a decentralized, distributed, and public digital ledger that is used to record transactions across many computers that have any involved record cannot be altered retroactively. That means that if you want to act upon the blockchain and move or transform some information, you will have to alter all subsequent blocks and it will rupture the chain. This allows the participants to verify and audit the transaction independently and relatively inexpensively. And that's also why there is a big use case in finance, but not only. It's also called the trust machine. Why so? Because it's anonymous, because the data included in the blocks are encrypted. It's decentralized. We can hear a lot about decentralized finance lately, but definitely it's not only about finance. As I said, there is no control body. There is the data that is verified simultaneously by a network of computers around the world and also by miners. The decentralization means that there is an entity or let's say multiple times the same blockchain around the world on different networks. It's normally safe, it's extremely complex to falsify transaction. It's impossible to modify the data contained in the blocks, except if you modify the remaining blocks and you destroy the chain. And it's nearly impossible to hack the blockchain technology. Why nearly impossible? It's because what is not hackable today might be hackable tomorrow. So we always have to be really careful with that. We can hear nowadays two different terms, blockchain and DLT. The blockchain is a technology with a particular type of data structure that is used in DLTs. DLT stands for distributed ledger technologies. Blockchain is a very specific type of it, and you can have multiple types of distributed ledger technology. Blockchain transmits and stores data together in blocks and connects these blocks to each other thanks to a chain, hence the name blockchain. It uses cryptography and algorithms to create, record, verify, and synchronize the data immutably across a wide network. It's pretty big, and it's the strength of all this distributed ledger technology to have it, to have occurrences on various networks around the world. Once the data is added, it can no longer be removed. We can also hear sometimes about fork. This is where there is a new protocol that is being implemented, and then there is new features of security and safety, for example, but I will not go through that because it's a little bit too techy, I think, for the moment. And there is also a specific feature which is called the hashing, and it's related to the fact that you can then find the information and retrieve it through the audit trail. I've been asked to provide some more information about the use cases. You will ask why all these pictures. It's not linked to finance because we already know quite a lot about blockchain in finance, but the first one on the left, it's a French example. It's about mashed potatoes. And then you have ship, you have diplomas, we have health, cars, planes, and yeah, why all of these have a link to blockchain? Well, simply because you could trace the full supply chain of the mashed potatoes from the production to the boxes sold in your supermarket. The ships, then there is a lot of application from the initial way where they are actually produced, put in the containers. You could then trace the whole containers through the whole world, and you could trace that and use that when you're buying your products to see whether it was sustainable or not. And producers can actually see whether their merchandising arrived safely. There is a lot of implication in terms of insurances, in terms of tracking as well the conditions upon which the products were actually transported. We will also speak a little bit later about this, but remittances, so the fact that you can transfer money to developing countries also in a fastest way and cheapest way than just with Western Union. Diplomas, there are a lot of fake diplomas in the world. It would be easier with blockchain, and there is a use cases that is being developed in Europe to actually prove that the diploma was correctly owned and delivered to the diploma owner, and what are the causes behind it and so on. So quite a lot of application at the moment that are being developed. In terms of health, a lot of application, because you could have the whole health cycle and whole patient information that could be stored on the blockchain that would also ease the repayment, the reimbursement of the health expenses. It would be easier to track the information about whether there is an allergy to a drug or so for a patient. So quite important, quite a lot of implication as well with the COVID situation, with the vaccination and the certificate. In terms of cars, then you could imagine that the full cycle of or the life cycle of a car could be tracked on a blockchain. That will also ease when you want to sell to someone else your cars. And then you have as well the planes, which would mean that it's easy to track the baggages and so on. And finally, the digital assets, because we will discuss this topic. There are digital representations of value made possible by the advances in cryptography and the distributed ledger technology. They are denominated in their own units of account and can be transferred peer-to-peer without an intermediary. There are different types and characteristics of digital assets. This is just a type of features that could be all bared by digital assets. They can really be adapted depending on your needs. So it's pretty flexible, and it's just an example of what could all be the features. And then finally, well, you could definitely now start to pay with your digital assets. They're not issued by central banks for digital assets, not for the CBDCs, and we'll discuss that afterwards. And they could also represent objects or art or anything. The only issue is that their value is not guaranteed by any central bank, so you just have to be careful when you buy some of them. Just buy what you can afford to lose, and that's what will be my last word. I will not discuss tokenization because I think Luc will explain it better than me. So thank you very much, and I hope you grasp a little bit better about blockchain. Mark, you're on mute.
Okay, thank you very much, Emilie, for your very informative presentation. And within the time limit, that's very much appreciated. You touched upon a few topics that are of interest to some of our participants, because I received questions in that area. We'll come back to that later on. So may I now introduce you second speaker, Khun Supsi Sopa. I hope I pronounced it correctly, better known as Khun Topp. Khun Topp is the founder and the CEO of Bitkub Capital Group Holdings. He holds a master degree of economics in economics from Oxford University, and he worked before as an investment banker, financial consultant, and central banker. Today, Khun Topp is considered to be one of Thailand's leading experts on Bitcoin and open blockchain. He's also board member and vice president of the Thai Fintech Association. Khun Topp will give us today a presentation about blockchain applications and real-world use, and cases that are disrupting the status quo in different business sectors. Khun Topp, please, the floor is yours.
Sure, thank you, Khun Mark. Hello, everyone. Sawasdee krap. Hello from Bangkok. It's a pleasure to meet you all and discussing about blockchain with you all today. So today I have about 10 minutes to discuss various blockchain applications and the developments of blockchain and digital assets in Thailand in the past 8 years. Personally, I've been in this blockchain space, cryptocurrency space for 8 years now. During those 8 years, I've founded two companies, two blockchain companies. So I've seen the evolution in Thailand specifically. 8 years ago when I first started, most of people thought, Bitcoin was a Ponzi scheme back then. Dark money, laundering money, toy money, do not go anywhere near it. That was the general perception 8 years ago. And then people started to say that, blockchain is going to change the world. So Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, do not go anywhere near them. That was started to boom in 2015, 16. And then right now, even the biggest banks in Thailand are jumping into this bandwagon space. The biggest banks in Thailand are, changing their structure, SEBX, right? And they said this is the future growth of banking and we call it finance 3.0. So within these last 8 years, we see a completely change in terms of view on digital assets and blockchain development. Even in Thailand, lately we have the arrival of digital baht, right? Which we will discuss more about digital baht today, which will be launched in the first quarter of next year. And luckily, I was one of the very few people that helped with the workshop of of the digital baht project with the Bank of Thailand. In Thailand, if for the definition of cryptocurrency first, what is the legal status of Bitcoin? People are wondering with this question mostly. I can tell with you right now that Bitcoin is not considered as a currency in Thailand yet, because the definition of money was changed in 2475 calendar year, Thai calendar year, which is 89 years ago. It is very hard to change the definition of money in Thailand. And since the arrival of digital currency did not fall into the old framework or the old definition of money, all the cryptocurrency are classified as assets in Thailand. And that is why the Bank of Thailand cannot regulate the industry specifically in our country. Right now, Bitkub is fully regulated under the Thai SEC. We are considered as a financial institution, a new type of financial institution, but we are instead of under the Bank of Thailand, we're under the SEC because cryptocurrency are not classified as money. They are classified as assets, digital assets. And I'm sure we will talk a bit about financial platform in the talk. But Bitkub has been growing really fast. We have about $2-3 billion worth of customers' assets with us right now, or 50 billion baht worth of customers' assets. And we will be making at least 200 million of revenue with 100 million net profitability. We're going to be one of the very first fintech unicorn. Profitable fintech unicorn in the country. We're a size of a small bank now. If you look at Bitkub, we have only been around for 3 years and 8 months, and we're already a size of a small bank in Thailand. So the industry is taking off very quickly at an unprecedented pace. I've seen the growth. We have experienced 1,000% growth in the last 4 years, and with use cases in Thailand right now, you'll see different use cases, especially this year. We see a lot of corporate accounts opening with us, whether the company is in the stock exchange or outside of the stock exchange. Both privately held companies and publicly listed companies are coming to Bitkub to open their corporate account to buy some digital asset as their company's reserve. And the trend is, triple digit growth in the corporate accounts. So we see institutional players coming into the space, not just SCB Bank, the biggest banks in Thailand, but even corporate accounts, or even corporations are creating their digital asset accounts with us. And in terms of retail customers, we reach 2.3 million customers in Thailand already, which is almost the same size as the traditional stock exchange in Thailand. But they've been around for 50 years. We were able to catch up. Even in May this year, the traffic of people visiting Bitkub website already exceeded set trade the number of traffics entering the stock exchange of Thailand. So we are quite surprised with how fast the industry is growing in our country. Apart from the corporate accounts being opened, real sectors are integrating their digital assets into their business models also. If you see the news in Thailand, all the real estate players coming to Bitkub and trying to integrate digital asset payments into condos, where people can buy condos, apartments with a Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies in Thailand instantly. We're acting as a crypto payment gateway for the country, for the real sectors. And also supercars. A lot of supercars companies in Thailand are accepting cryptocurrency. Back in 2016, I remember there were only 50 companies in Thailand that accepted crypto. There were small shops like burger shops, suits shops. But now a lot of SMEs and big corporations are now embracing digital asset payments. And even the biggest banks, a few biggest banks, SEB, K-Bank, and Currencies, they are partnering with Ripple, with their RippleNet technology to allow cross-country remittance service. People can go log into SEB Bank, the Purple Bank app right now, and they can remit money from Thailand to the UK within 30 seconds. Instead of 2 days, it's down to 30 seconds. And the cost from 5% down to 0.05%, at least 100 times cheaper. And all the banks are setting up their DeFi funds, DeFi unit now, not just SEB, but also KBTG. They're spinning off, into setting up their DeFi team, as well as the asset tokenization team, right? In SEB, they have Token X. In K-Bank, they have Kubix, right? They foresee that in the future, we can tokenize all kinds of value. We call it the fractional ownership model. We can trade everything around us in the same manner that we have been trading stocks in a fractional ownership way. And last week, one of the biggest real estates in Thailand, they just launched the first asset-backed token, where people can co-own, a piece of condo, piece of land in a fractional ownership way, very similar to REIT. And this is already happening as we speak, right? Since last week, real estates are, are able to fundraise and sell in smaller units. And this is the real blockchain applications happening in Thailand. Even the bond market association, Thai BMA, they're partnering with K-Bank to issue bonds on the blockchain to reduce the time from months to 3 days of processing time, and to make sure that all the different parties are able to work in full alignment. And what is the most interesting about the development in Thailand is the Bank of Thailand is one of the very, fast forward, I would say in the top 10 most forward-thinking central banks in the world. They set up their digital currency team since 2017. So 4 years now. And now they are launching digital baht. And I was in the workshop helping to brainstorm the internal flow of digital baht, right? And it's going to be a two-tier system, right? The Bank of Thailand won't disrupt retail banks entirely. It's not a one-tier model where they issue digital currency directly to retail consumers. They are still keeping retail banks as a distributor of digital baht, a two-tier model, where the central bank is the creator, the issuer of digital baht, and the retail banks are the one distributing the digital baht into the ecosystem, right? But it's going to be a non-interest bearing account. So you cannot bear interest on those digital baht accounts. We're going to have 2 accounts, sub-accounts by next year. And for the first time in the Thai history, the Bank of Thailand allows non-banks to be a distributor of digital baht now. So all the fintech players can come in, not just traditional banks, to act as an intermediary to distribute digital baht into the economy. Right? So this is also a very interesting development. The overall digital currency market is around $2 trillion in size. for the first eight years, there was only 28 million Bitcoin wallets opened around the world. And when we entered the 9th and the 10th year, only these 2 years, the numbers went to 50 million, right? And an additional 22 million in 2 years. So we are growing in an exponential manner. Personally, what is going to happen in the next decade? I foresee that the number of Bitcoin wallets could reach 1 billion wallets, because we're not growing in a linear manner. We're going to grow in an exponential manner. 1 billion wallets worldwide, whether direct usage or indirect usage, right? Because all the digital yuan, China central bank is moving forward. Even private companies like Facebook, right? They're launching Libra, and with his 100 other friends, with the Libra Association, launching their own digital currency within their, we call it the social banking, area. They are going to redefine banking altogether. We can send payments via Messenger app, WhatsApp, Instagram, right? In the same manner that we're sending messages around the world. That's how we remit value, instant, frictionless, global, in the same manner as we're sending emails. And the market is really small right now at $2 trillion market cap. If you look at the overall global financial assets around the world, there are 500 trillion of global financial assets. Out of those 500 trillions, 70 trillion went to global stocks, all combined. Out of those 500 trillion, 100 trillion went to the bonds market, right? Out of 500 trillion, only 2 trillion went to the digital currency industry, which is considered very small. Imagine if, say, 1% of all the investors diversify their investment into cryptocurrency. 1% of 500 trillion, that is already at $5 trillion market size, meaning that we can, at least grow and double the size, double our current size with the only 1% assumption of diversification from other assets into this area. And there are other blockchain use cases beyond banking, right? Beyond the money system as well. But the closest development, the real use cases in Thailand started from the financial sector. All the banking, setting up their DeFi, remittances, right? So central bank issuing their retail central bank digital currency. Even the retail banks are jumping in to create this digital asset exchange. Even the stock exchange of Thailand is creating a digital asset exchange right now in Thailand. And we see real sectors integrating digital payments into their products by using exchanges as their digital asset payment gateways. And what's going to happen in the next few years? We also see a rise of NFT markets. I'm sorry we are running out of time, but NFT market is going to change, the whole entertainment, gaming, advertisement. I can tell you that in the next 5 years, entertainment, advertisement, or gaming industry will never be the same again. It's another big disruption coming in. NFT stands for non-fungible token market, where we can integrate digital dimension into the real payment sectors, real sectors economy. So I have to stop my session now. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Khun Topp. That was a very informative session indeed, and I can say that we are very happy to hear that Bitkub is on the way to become a unicorn, a Thai unicorn, and it's also good to hear that typically traditional institutions such as the Bank of Thailand are at the forefront and very flexible and progressive in taking on these issues of digital currencies. You answered many of the questions we had already in your presentation, but we'll come back to some of the items that you touched upon a bit later on during the Q&A session.
Sure.
And may I now introduce you our third speaker, Mr. Jonathan Prince, who is a co-founder of Finologee. And Finologee is a Luxembourg-based company. Jonathan is a partner at Impulse. That's a company handling over 95% of messaging and micropayments made via mobile operators in Luxembourg. In 2012, he co-founded DigiCash, which is the Luxembourg bank's mobile payment system. More recently, Mr. Prince co-founded Finologee, and that company is specialized in Fintech and RegTech. The company runs a trusted digital platform that simplifies connectivity between financial institutions and a variety of fintech solutions such as ID document validation, electronic signatures, access to bank accounts, KYC tools, etc. Jonathan, could you tell us how exactly Finologee is disruptive in the fintech and regtech world? The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mark. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon to those that are in Thailand, and good morning, still morning, to those that are connecting from Belgium and Luxembourg. And thanks a lot for the invitation. It's always a great pleasure for me, and I'm humbled to be on this wonderful panel and just trying to intervene after a very successful venture. So I'll try to be as interesting, even though I was asked to talk about regtech more than the cryptocurrency. So I will try and share my screen. I hope that you can see it, and I hope that you have the right version of it. So it's not the presentation mode, but the full screen mode. Great. So I would like to start maybe with using a definition of regtech, and we'll talk after of digital platforms that we operate on behalf of different banks and other financial institutions such as insurance companies. But as we do, I looked up on the internet for a definition of regtech, and I ended up on Wikipedia. It's always the best the best source to find some information, but I find it actually interesting. Regtech it's clearly technology that will help to enhance, optimize regulatory processes. So when we talk about that, obviously we're talking about finance, the banking industry, and most of these players, the incumbent players, probably have different challenges. First challenge is to try and grow the activity, right? So we know that there is more and more of competition in I think the entire world, and in Europe. Clearly, it's also a goal of the regulators and the legislators that if you look at the European Commission, they're trying to foster innovation and competition in this area, right? Mainly because of the recent financial crisis. Also, they basically came to the conclusion that this industry had maybe to change slightly, to evolve. And if you look at what are the different challenges, it's indeed for a bank or an insurance company to try and grow their business, and at the same time cope with an increasing amount of regulation. If you look at Europe, we went from something like 10,000 different regulations, rules in the 10 years ago in the banking industry, up to 50,000. So in less than 10 years, we added 40,000 new rules and regulations. So this is very heavy, and all these banks have to cope, all these insurance financial institutions have to cope with implementing. So clearly the goal is, on one hand, to enhance transparency, consistency, and to basically put more trust into this industry. And on the other hand, for the banks, for the financial institutions, it's to comply with these rules, but also to try and maintain the quality or get a higher quality at a lower cost, obviously. So if we look at regtech in the early days of it, it's mainly about KYC. Basically, this is probably the area where banks and insurance companies are really challenged at this time. So KYC AML is clearly one of the hot topics even though it's not the only one. But it's clearly one of the aspects on which the regulators are putting more and more rules in place, more and more pressure, and the banks have to implement these, bearing also the costs of these new regulations. Finologee, as Mark kindly introduced you to, is a fintech or regtech player based in Luxembourg. So our role is basically to do this intermediation between the financial institutions, the incumbent players, and what we would call fintech providers. This could be startups, it could be also, traditional IT providers that have interesting solutions that could help these financial institutions optimize the existing, or even build new product and services that would be more in line with the expectations of the end customers. We have a team of 40 here in Luxembourg, mainly, roughly 200 clients. And in terms of financials, we started this company 4 years ago, and we've reached 7.5 million in revenue. But we indeed have other activities, and this is what we've been doing for the past 15 years, basically. So the first activity is indeed around micropayments. And this is not really in partnership with the banks or the financial industry as such, but it's more in partnership with the telecom operators. And here we operate as a gateway between the content providers, those that would actually want to distribute content, monetize it, or just basically reach out to their end customers by using a mean which is, well, adopted by almost everyone. Anyone who has a phone, a smartphone, a cell phone, can receive a text message. So that's what we've been doing for the past 15 years with mPulse, and we've reached almost a monopolistic position where we are managing 95% market shares in Luxembourg. So based on that, we decided to launch DigiCash. DigiCash was in 2012, and there we entered the regulated world. We went for a license, so we're fully licensed company with a payment institution license. So it's a lighter banking license. And we decided to partner with banks instead of competing with them. That was the idea at the very beginning. We onboarded a bank almost every year, basically. And so we've onboarded the latest one this year with his Raiffeisen Bank, and which brings it to 6 retail banks in Luxembourg. And the mobile payment solution has reached a level of usage by the end customer, which is quite high, as we have almost or a bit more than half the population which is actively using that. And there are basically 4 countries in Europe where you reach a penetration rate of 30%, which are the Nordics with Denmark, Sweden, but also Switzerland and basically Luxembourg. So this is very high, and it's getting a lot of traction. And we switched from being the initiators, where we basically were doing the P2C, to also to becoming the technical provider to the banks. That's where we decided to launch Finologee, where we're currently serving over 50 financial institutions in 9 European countries. Finologee has different business lines, but as I said, what we try and follow is the needs, the requirements of our clients. So we tackled the KYC challenge by providing a platform that we operate, which is enabling our clients, banks, to either do digital onboarding, fully digital onboarding, or in the meantime, they can do also remediation, they can do life cycle management, different campaigns. So basically helping them comply with new regulation. This is heavily used by life insurance companies in Luxembourg, where the challenge of actually knowing their customers is very big, as they usually rely on intermediaries, so brokers, and this time the regulation has changed, or recently the regulation has changed, and they have the challenge of actually updating all the information around the subscribers, and they're doing that directly through the platforms. We also have bank compliance products around open banking, where we're serving over 36 banks, large banks such as SocGen or Pictet, or even more recently Goldman Sachs, and also new players in this industry such as Alipay or Airbnb Payments that are actually relying on Finologee to help them comply with these new rules. Around payments, that's an interesting one, because we're talking about blockchain cryptocurrencies, but actually some of our clients, or most of our clients, are not yet at this stage. So what we did is build the intermediate solution. So we've API'd Swift, and we're making it easier for our clients, banks, insurance companies, to actually use Swift, and to put also some layers of control, transparency around it. And this way, they can manage it in a more efficient way and distribute their payments or manage their payments directly through an API. So basically, this is what we've been building. We've been building with our staff, internal staff, but the approach is not to develop in-house only, but also seek for the solutions that are available on the market and implement them, and then expose them through a Fintech API platform, where our role would then be to do the entire due diligence on these providers. There is this specific license in Luxembourg, which is a support PFS license. So we're also regulated. We're also supervised by the national competent authority. And this is, I think, an interesting use case, Luxembourg, where the IT providers, as we are also supervised and regulated. And then it's much easier for these banks and these insurance companies to actually outsource, because we do most of the work they have to do, the provider due diligence, the entire framework where we guarantee this is all in line with the regulation and the rules. And last but not least, we decided to go for something that is probably more known outside Luxembourg, which is an ISO 27001 certification. So basically, my message would be that indeed, there are ways forward, and blockchain cryptocurrencies are something that the banks are interested in, but they also need to do baby steps, basically, and do the intermediate steps where they want to tackle this challenge of implementing new regulation, optimizing the existing. And there's clearly a role to be played by players such as Finologee. And that's all for me. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. That was also a very interesting presentation. Succeeded in making a very heavy subject quite digestible, I must say. So thank you for that. Let me now introduce our next speaker, Mr. Maxime, who is the Chief Marketing Officer of Atato. It's a company originating from Singapore, but with a big base in Thailand. It's a relatively new company. Atato has been set up in 2017. And the company is delivering a secure and innovative blockchain platform with a focus on managing digital assets. Their custody solutions, which are delivered as a service, aim to simplify how digital assets are secured today. Their partners include the Singapore Fintech Association, the Thai Fintech Association, and recently one of the larger regional cryptocurrency exchanges started to use Atato's custody platform to keep the assets of their customers secure. Maxime, could you tell us a bit more about your company's custody services and how they help to keep crypto assets secure? The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mark, and thanks for having me today. Just a very quick presentation of who I am. And I'm French, but actually I've been living in Thailand for 15 years. And I've been in blockchain, in Bitcoin back in 2012. I remember when we were with Khun Topp, we were like just like 6 or 7 people talking about cryptocurrencies. Nobody cared at that time. And we can see that the world has changed, and thanks, we were right. And we are seeing now that what we had planned is really now starting. So I'm not going to bother you with security and so on. I will try to make it a bit fun and a bit light. But today, just what I would like to do is really actually explain you a bit about security and why it matters. Because I'm sure maybe some of you have some cryptocurrencies. You may be afraid of losing them, or you don't know how to store them. So I'm just going to be a very general presentation of what it is and what we do. Yeah, just the company Mark introduced it, but actually we are quite a new company, but in the blockchain space it is quite an old one. Since 2017, basically the idea was with my co-founder. We wanted to deliver blockchain solutions for enterprises. So we started this company back in 2017, and since then we work with the major banks that Khun Topp mentions, K-Bank, SCB, and actually we worked with the Bank of Thailand on the CBDC project with our partner Currencies. We did a proof of concept on digital Thai baht. It was end of last year. I'm very excited actually for this project. It's going really to change the game in terms of blockchain adoption in Thailand. But when we started to basically build blockchain solutions for financial institutions, the only questions that were that our clients were asking us is about custody. You know, the banks today, they offer custody for your money, they offer custody for your stocks. So you don't really bother about thinking about that. But when you are a digital asset exchange like Bitkub, or when you are a company just holding cryptocurrencies, you need to secure your coins, and you can't do it the way you want it. There is regulations, there is technical solutions that you need to have. So since then, we basically focus on only one thing, is offering a custody solution for anybody that actually manage or hold cryptocurrencies. So before we go into the detail, maybe what is crypto custody? I'm a very general one, so don't worry, I'm not going to bother you with all the technical part. But a custodian is a third-party provider which manage your assets. So the beauty of crypto is that you can be your custodian, you can be your own bank, as we often say. But you can also trust third party like us, or crypto exchanges like Bitkub. So being a custodian is basically what the banks are doing for you, for your money today, and with your stocks, your bonds, or whatever financial assets that you have. So it's nothing different, except that it's done for digital assets and cryptocurrencies. Why do you need a custodian? If you have been in blockchain long enough, you have seen that actually a lot of the exchanges, blockchain protocol have been hacked. Some people lost a lot of money. Gladfully, it's quite a long time since the last one happened, but we have seen in 2020 a large exchange lost 280 millions of their consumer funds. They have some insurance. There is some ways to actually avoid this kind of hack, but they still happen. So that's why you, as a holder of cryptocurrencies, need to care about security. And that's why there is some regulations in place as well in Thailand for exchanges to look and to use third-party custodians like what we are doing at Atato. So how do you do it today? maybe you don't really know what is this little USB key on the left, but this is what we call a ledger for people who are used to cryptocurrencies. This is what we call a crypto wallet, where you actually can secure your coins and become your own bank. In that case, you own your coins, you manage themselves by yourself, but you also have the risk to lose them or to not be able to recover them if you don't manage them properly. So this is a solution that crypto enthusiasts love, because this is the whole concept about crypto. You be your own bank, you manage your funds, you don't depend on anyone, and that's how you want to secure your cryptos, right? But it's not tomorrow that my mother is going to use this kind of technology. It's going to take some time. It's it's not really consumer friendly, I would say. So that's why people use exchanges. Mostly they keep their coins on exchanges like Bitkub or Binance or Coinbase, whatever you are using. There is often a say, and I'm sorry for Khun Topp, because it's not for his business, but when you keep your coins on an exchange, we often say that it's not your coins, so not your keys, not your coins, and you are actually vulnerable to some hack. It can happen. It never happens to Bitkub, and I don't think it will, but it's a risk that is there. So here comes the custodians, company like Atato. We actually provide custody for exchanges like Bitkub. We don't provide the custody for them, but for actually some of their competitors in Southeast Asia. And we offer the custody services for exchanges. It means that a large part of the crypto holding that they have is actually secured with our technology. There is a reason for that, is because actually the regulations force them to not keep all the assets of their customers on their platform, but actually to use a third-party provider like us to provide more securities, to provide additional layer of securities. So at Atato, we provide this custody solution for exchanges, but also for anybody who holds cryptocurrencies. When we wanted to offer a new solution, we looked at the custody market and we saw the big names were working with financial institutions, but we said this is not the future. In the future, a lot of companies like yours, a lot of individuals will need to use an app to secure their custody solution. And this is what we are providing at Atato. All right. So why do you need a custodians if you are a company? Today, with the Untitled Chamber of Commerce, I assume that there is a lot of you who actually works for companies or own a company yourself. If you want to manage the custody of your digital asset by yourself, it's going to be a lot of risk. If you are the employee that is going to have to take care of the keys and to transfer the coins, you have a lot of responsibilities. So you need to have a lot of risk and compliance management put in place. You need to have a third-party provider like us who actually has the technology to secure your coins properly. So in order for the whole, I would say, business part to adopt cryptocurrencies, you need to use the custodians. You want to give the risk to the custodians. You have insurance. You can protect yourself with the service that you use, but you want to put this risk on someone else. So this is what's happening today. And I think if there is one slide that I would like you to remember is this one. I'm sure you heard about the MicroStrategy or Tesla, Elon Musk mentioning that they were purchasing a lot of Bitcoins. You may think that it's only those big American companies, but it's not. You have actually in Thailand a lot of companies owning digital assets, not only in Thailand, in Singapore or in Europe. Maybe not 43,000 Bitcoins, but maybe one, two, a couple of Ethereums or others. But for those, I would say, small and medium companies, you would like to have an app that you can just onboard, sign up, and give your cryptos to a custodian, which will be managing it in the most secure way. So for us, what we believe at Atato is really that actually the big part of the adoption is really to have those companies owning cryptocurrencies and use a software like us. So what we do at Atato, you can scan the QR code. We actually work so far only with financial institutions and exchanges, But in the end of October, we are going to onboard anybody who is able to, who wants to own any cryptocurrencies, to simply sign up on our app. And you can just go ahead. You will have a nice promotion codes for the public launch that is going to be at the end of October. And you will be free to try our platform, see if you like it, and hopefully you will be becoming a customer of Atato soon. So thanks a lot. It's a short presentation. I think I'm right on time. So thanks a lot for your time and for having me. I hope you learn a little bit about custody today. I think you're on mute, Mark.
Thank you very much, Maxime. That was exactly what we wanted to hear in the short period of time that we allotted to you. And well, it's interesting to hear that your company Atato is making their services available for, let's say, the wide range of companies who are not banks.
Exactly.
Very exciting to see that. Now I would like to introduce our next speaker. Now we have first a few questions. We had mentioned in the program that we would have a panel discussion, but we have so many questions that I will guide the panel by asking these questions. So most of the questions we received were about legal status and tax status of using Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies as a company, and mostly referring to Thailand. And the last slide that Maxime used is indeed very interesting, because I do think that the statements and the actions of Elon Musk and Tesla woke up a lot of people and make them start wondering, hey, can we do that in our company too? So therefore, maybe Khun Topp, can you come back in and say, you mentioned that Bitcoin in Thailand is not considered a currency, so it's not money, right? It's an asset. But companies can make payments, also international payments by, for example, opening an account on Bitkub. Is that correct?
Yes, so it's on a gray area here in Thailand, where on the Bank of Thailand's regulation side, they cannot change the definition of money yet. It's been changed 89 years ago. So it's not classified as money, but people are using them sort of like money, because people are using Bitcoin as a transactional protocol to remit money overseas. They're using RippleNet technology to use, cryptocurrency as the second phase, to use cryptocurrency as a transactional protocol to remit money overseas for payments as well. Those without bank accounts, they can just keep their stable coin, which we haven't touched yet. It's a privately created, very similar to CBDC, but privately created ones, usually backed by a basket of currency or asset, or asset backed or backed by a network of users. Those without bank accounts can use stable coin to keep their funds and cash out, via an OTC or cardless ATM or Bitcoin debit card here, without having a bank account. So people are using them, to purchase a condo, luxury cars, very similar to payments. The regulation is playing a catch-up game.
All right. All right. The second part of my question was that if Bitcoin is considered an asset, does Revenue Department consider it the same way? If a company keeps Bitcoin on their balance instead of Thai baht or another currency, and what is the taxation regime? How would they value at Revenue Department? How would they value the Bitcoin or the cryptocurrencies on the accounts?
To be honest, this is the current pain point in the cryptocurrency space in Thailand, right? Because the regulations are playing a catch-up game, not just on the Bank of Thailand side, but also on the Revenue Department side. Since we classify Bitcoin as an asset, then you have to pay capital gain taxes.
Yeah.
For those in Thailand who earn capital, gain, we have to pay 15% tax on capital gain. But it is really hard to justify your capital gain because the order book on Bitkub exchange is not connected to the rest of the world. So we don't really know the actual cost of production of each trade. So the revenue department has been quiet in the last 4 years because it's not really practical what they have been saying. So they kind of force everyone to clarify by themselves at the end of the year, together with their personal income tax. So it's not our obligation as a company to pay taxes on behalf of customers. Customers need to reveal themselves their own capital gain tax, and they pay together with their personal income tax at the end of the year. And on the company side, we are paying 7% VAT on trading activities. And also some of the expenses we cannot claim, such as gas fee, because we cannot find who the actual owner counterparty is because it's blockchain. All the miners around the world, it changes every like 10 minutes. So we can't even claim those expenses as a company. It is a pain point that we need to fix down the road. And we are paying almost more than 1 billion baht of taxes this year to the revenue department, which is quite a lot because of these regulation that we need to fix.
Okay. So revenue department is happy with Bitkub, I imagine.
Well, they're very happy.
Yeah. Another question that came up is what will be the impact of regulations on cryptocurrencies? And people are referring to occurrences of the last couple of weeks where some countries introduce Bitcoin as legal tender, while other countries, and not small ones, are banning it. Emilie, do you have some comment on that?
Yes, well, I think that's a really good question, and that will also help people to focus more on the technology than on the digital assets and the scams one. The issue right now we are seeing in the adoption of the technology and the blockchain in general, DLTs, is the fact that we give too much power to the digital assets or to the scams, and we tend to forget what they could be used for and the real impact on us, on our lives in the industry. So I would be in favor of more regulation. So afterwards, only the good digital assets and the legitimate one would succeed and have more power in the economy in the future. So I would be in favor of it, and I think that will tend to allow a better adoption of the whole blockchain ecosystem.
Back to Khun Topp, in this respect, Khun Topp, do you think there could be a moment coming that Thailand, the Thai authorities would ban Bitcoin, maybe in favor of the coming digital baht? Or do you see they both ecosystems living together in parallel?
Yeah, for people in the space, we all know that you cannot effectively ban Bitcoin, right? Mm-hmm. The only way to effectively ban Bitcoin is to stop using the internet, right? Exactly. I can send public key on emails, on any chat messaging app. It's not feasible to completely ban Bitcoin. So it's beyond that point already, and Bitkub is classified as a financial institution, fully regulated one. Even the biggest banks in Thailand are going full force on digital asset space now. With the latest announcement of the SCB Bank and K Bank, you see that they started to realize this is the future of banking. We call it the finance 3.0. Personally, I think it's beyond that point that to effectively ban the internet, right? It's not possible. But for China, we all know that they ban Facebook because they have their own Baidu. They ban Google because they have their own WeChat and Baidu, right? It's a Chinese way of doing businesses. But people in China can still use Facebook, can still use Google. It's not completely effective. And to be honest, the largest cryptocurrency users are still Chinese, right? One of the top 3 in the world. So I don't see it as a way forward. We can't stop the world from moving forward. Innovation will just foster elsewhere and come back and service the countries that are lacking behind. But I understand from the facts that if you study history, if we all study history, all of the most disruptive technologies have the same trend, and that trend is people are scared of change. Right? People, as a human nature, we don't like change. We're scared of new things. Even when the arrival of automobiles, right? People thought it's a machine that makes a noisy machine and use a random thing called gasoline that cannot be found anywhere, and it it kills people, right? It's a death machine. It was the name of a car before, a death machine. Even the image on the press of automobile was so bad that in 1896 the UK government came out with a new law called the Red Flag Act. The law forces to have 3 people to operate a car back then: a driver, the engineer that sits together with a driver to supervise the engine, and then a guy with a red flag running 100 yards in front of a car, warning the pedestrian that the death machine is coming this way. And UK completely lost the automobile industry race in 1896. We follows the same pattern. When the electricity first came out, people are saying that it's going to burn your house down, it's going to kill you. Let's use candles. Same with Bitcoin. People are saying exactly the same thing. So I kind of understand the trend, but can we really stop the world from moving forward? We can't really stop the world from moving forward. So I think we are already beyond that point.
Right. I think I do agree with that statement. Then the $100,000 question: will Bitcoin reach that level by end of year, or ever?
To be honest, that's $1 billion question, and and if I know the answer, I would not be opening, Bitkub right now, right? I would just shut down the company and go for. I don't know. I can't answer you that question. But
right. Okay.
Money that you can afford to lose.
Yeah. All right. Then let's go back to our speakers, and I would like to introduce now Mr. Falempin, who is the CEO and founder of Tokeny Solutions, also a Luxembourg-based company. Mr. Falempin has been immersed in enterprise-grade technology for over 10 years. He got into blockchain in 2011 and has successfully started and sold several startups in the technology sector. More recently, he founded Tokeny Solutions, a technology enabler with the vision of digitizing capital markets. In July 2019, the company raised €5 million funding from Euronext. And I'm saying from, not on. That means Euronext themselves invested €5 million into the company. And today, Tokeny is the leading tokenization platform with more than $8 billion of tokenized assets managed by the platform. We thought that if Euronext Stock Exchange is that interested in Tokeny Solutions, we should be too. Luc, please go ahead and enlighten us about the tokenization of assets. The floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me today. Actually, for the small parentheses, we started to work on Tokeny in 2017 when I was in Thailand. And I remember every week I was going to some meetup about cryptocurrencies in Bangkok. So I guess it was a big part of my motivation to start this company 4 years ago now. So since then, I followed what happened in Thailand, and definitely I can confirm that Thailand is one of the most proactive countries in terms of blockchain and cryptocurrencies. So it's my pleasure to be there today. So what we do at Tokeny, basically, we provide a full compliance infrastructure for digital assets. So we help financial institutions to represent their assets on the blockchain. So what we do is mostly permission tokens. I will explain what it is, but basically you can represent assets, any type of assets, and you can control these assets, even if they are represented on a decentralized infrastructure that you don't control because it is decentralized. So what we do is basically using this technical infrastructure, building on top of it some kind of software layer, and to make it available for financial institutions. So clients are fund managers, issuers, asset servicers, all of those kind of financial institutions, custodians, obviously, who wants to use the blockchain because it's a very efficient infrastructure. So definitely we use blockchain for finance. As Emilie explained, you can use blockchain in many different areas. We decided to focus on finance, even if we more and more we provide solutions for identity as well, digital identity, because it's actually a good way to bring compliance to blockchain, to make sure that you can identify the different stakeholders. So why we think blockchain is important, we'll not spend too much time on this, I guess you all know, but we really see blockchain as a way to transfer value, to transfer these assets. So basically our clients, what they want is to reach more investors and to make sure that their assets can become more liquid, so improve the liquidity of the underlying assets represented by the tokens. And it's very important because today, for financial assets, you have public markets with the stock exchanges, public stock exchanges, but it's closed. It's only for large financial institutions and then lot of intermediaries. And for private markets, you have almost no infrastructure. So it's very hard to find a counterparty to trade with, to find investment opportunities.
I'm sorry, look, may I interrupt you briefly? It seems that we're not seeing your presentation.
Okay. So what do you see? Because I'm sharing my screen. Okay, let me start again. Can you see it now?
Yes, we do see it now. Yes.
Okay. So sorry about that. You didn't miss too much. I was just presenting the first slide like this. So I was there. So as I was saying, we use blockchain to transfer value and not only data. Internet is to transfer information. As we know, it changed already everything in the last 20 years. We think blockchain is going to do the same with value. And on this blockchains, you can do a lot of things, especially automating some operations. For example, you can transfer your tokens without a counterparty risk. So you can sell financial instruments to someone else in exchange of money without the risk of counterparty and without an intermediary. So that kind of things are actually a very game changer. One thing that is very important is that you have different type of tokens, and I guess a big part of the confusion usually come from there. So it started with utility tokens, so basically tokens to power a network or to give access to some services. So probably the best example is Ethereum. Then we had some stable coins. So stable coins are issued by a central party, and this central party certifies that one token represents $1, for example. So it's quite interesting because it can represent the cash leg as well on blockchain, and you need it for many operations. More recently, we started to see NFTs, non-fungible tokens, to represent digital things like images or videos, that kind of things, and to create a unique representation. And at Tokeny, we focus mostly on security tokens. What it means is that we can represent financial instruments on chain. And there is a big difference between a financial instrument and a cryptocurrency because it's not the same thing in terms of regulation. Financial instruments, securities are regulated, and as an issuer, you need to be in control of who can hold the shares in your company or your any type of securities you issue. So what we do is helping these people to control their tokens. It's good to deploy a token, but then you need to control the full life cycle of the tokens and to make sure that only eligible investors can receive your security tokens. So only people who are KYC approved, who are not terrorists, who are living in different countries that you authorized, etc. You have a lot of different rules to apply. So quick word about Tokeny. So we are based in Luxembourg, obviously. We're 4 years old now, more than 40 customers. These customers are deploying tokens for themselves, for their own assets, or on behalf of their clients. So banks, for example, will provide this tokenization platform to their clients. We tokenize for a bit more than 8.5 billion euros of assets. So I totally agree with what was said before. It's not the beginning. I mean, it's not. We're not in the early days now. It started to accelerate, and big banks are jumping in the space. So of course, we can tokenize any kind of assets. Technically speaking, it doesn't change anything. So the potential is really big. We are backed by the Euronext group, which is the largest stock exchange group in Europe. And of course, it helps us to understand regulation, to push regulations to go in the right direction, and to reach institutional. So what we do is providing a full platform, an end-to-end platform to compliantly issue, manage, and transfer digital assets. So we provide all of the tools you need. So maybe I can show you here. So the different layers you need. So basically, we selected different blockchain networks to issue your tokens. We came up with a full protocol solution, a suite of smart contracts to deploy on these blockchains. And then we have the software layer, which is probably the most important, where we add the most value, which is the APIs and the white label platform to control everything that you do for you as an issuer or for your investors. So for example, we can tokenize cash, we can do a CBDC in a matter of minutes and give the right permissions to the right people who can control these tokens. So maybe to finish quickly, how it works is basically in every transfer of tokens, we will make sure that only eligible people can receive this token. So we'll make sure that the investor rules are respected and the offering rules are respected. So for example, if you distribute your financial instrument in the US with a Reg D, you need to apply some regulations like it's only for accredited investors, etc., etc. You cannot have more than 2,000 investors, that kind of rules. Everything will be coded in the smart contract and automatically enforced during every transfer. And in terms of blockchain, we are compatible with a different type of blockchains, and especially on Polygon. So basically, we can make transfer of tokens representing assets or cash in a few seconds, and even for free, because now it's so cheap that we pay the gas fees for clients. So in seconds, you can transfer assets, $1 billion of assets if you want, against $1 billion of cash digitally in full compliance with your technology. So I guess I was a minute late, but I got the presentation trouble, so I'm excused, right?
Thank you very much, Luc. That was equally interesting. And indeed, this tokenization process opens up a whole new world of possibilities of transferring assets. I think we have a few questions in that respect, which I will ask you later. I think Matthew is back in the room. And so Matthew is our last speaker of today. Matthew van Niekerk is the co-founder and CEO of SettleMint, which is a Belgium-based company. And SettleMint offers a low-code platform that makes it easy to deliver blockchain applications rapidly by taking a visual development approach. The simplified enterprise blockchain model allows for an accelerated adoption of the technology within any organization, meaning with their ready-to-use tools, businesses can bring applications to production in weeks, even without any prior experience with the technology. Matthew, we are very eager to know how SettleMint helps companies not to fail implementing blockchain technology. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mark, and then thank you to everyone who's here today. Pleasure to be here to talk about something in the blockchain space that is not related to cryptocurrencies and not related to asset tokens, although the settlement platform is designed to support those kinds of use cases as well. But I'd like to talk a little bit about an area that we're seeing increasing interest in, especially in a post-COVID environment, where during COVID, supply chains were tested to the extent possible. A lot of supply chains were proven to not stand the test, and we see that blockchain technology can enhance supply chain tracking capabilities. And also to support most companies today have initiatives around ESG or around sustainability, and blockchain offers a tool that can be used to support in achieving those objectives. But what does SettleMint do in a nutshell? Sorry, just getting a bit of background. Can everyone hear me okay? Yep, okay.
Yes,
All right,
yes, we do.
Perfect, thank you, Mark. So essentially what WordPress does for websites and Stripe does for payments, that's what SettleMint does for blockchain. It's a low-code platform that just makes it easy for any developer to build blockchain applications. And I'll get into some of the supply chain use cases where I can demonstrate or explain how that happens. So, but about the use cases in supply chain tracking and also sustainable supply chain tracking, we've got some experience with that. So I heard Carrefour mentioned earlier, quite often Carrefour blockchain implementation is closely associated with IBM. Now, Carrefour in Belgium, where our headquarters is, they said we want to do the same thing faster and cheaper. Can you help us? And we said yes. So we've helped Carrefour in Belgium to do similar food supply chain tracking cases for different food products that they have. Colruyt is the largest supermarket chain here in Belgium, and AB InBev is the largest brewer in the world. So we worked with these three companies in supply chain tracking use cases. Now, to look at it from a business perspective, though, there are typically different drivers that lead companies to want to enhance their supply chain using blockchain technology as a tool, whether they want to enhance accountability for indirect suppliers in their supply chain, if they want to be able to show that, for example, the process of the packaging in cans, for example, that the methods used to produce the cans is sustainable, collecting information throughout the supply chain is enhanced with blockchain technology. Also adding transparency to the process, so providing consumers with deep insights into the journey their products have taken. Any certifications such as bio, organic, or sustainable, these things can be added to a product and throughout the supply chain. And just adding an element of traceability is often a driver from a business perspective that leads companies to look to blockchain technology to enhance their current supply chain management systems. But look, I'll go very quickly into case examples. And one of the, from a business perspective, a lot of companies like AB InBev are looking, like Carrefour, are looking to, and they're looking to blockchain technology to enhance their supply chain management systems, but they want to know what are the benefits of it. And one of the examples, this is a nice one from Carrefour. Basically, they described a halo effect. So consumers are increasingly conscious of the sustainable, is the product that I'm consuming, is it sustainably sourced, for example? And what they found at Carrefour after the implementation, which went live in February of 2019, and it's been running since then. So they've had time to analyze the impact that this has on consumers. And one thing, a key finding that they had is that, they did this for a select line of products. And the consumer reaction was basically, if I can trust you for that product, I can trust you for other products. So there's this nice spillover effect, they call it the halo effect, that leads to further brand accretion, so a stronger brand image with clients that are looking into this. Now, what does when we talk about smart contracts, the type of smart contract we use are what we call state machines. So we look at a business process going all the way from, in this case, it's pork. So where the pigs are raised in Belgium, there's a farm called Biovar. They produce only bio animals. And we collect data at that point, everything down to how much feed is the mother of a piglet eating when it's being raised. So this types of information is gathered at the farm and recorded on chain. Throughout the process, then there's a meat processing company called Delavive. They have the shipping and logistics from the farm. They do the slaughter, they do the slicing and the packaging, and all of that information is collected, like the temperature and conditions that the processing was done, is added to the same unique identifier for the animals as they move through the supply chain. Ultimately, what this provides is the consumer with a full provenance trail of by scanning typically a QR code on a package, as you see on the case in the image. By scanning that QR code, I can retrieve the full history of the product that I'm enjoying. Now, what they did find is that implementing this, not only does it create this halo effect where there's more trust for the brand, but it also leads to more revenue. And a nice thing that they found is that when they have consumers that are scanning and looking at the product, they're spending on average around 90 seconds in-app. And for anybody in the retail business, having 90 seconds of screen time with a customer is a great opportunity to build engagement, to look at cross-selling and so forth. But one thing I mentioned about the speed at which implementations happen with our technology, just highlighted here at the bottom. So Carrefour, it took them 3 months to build the app and to build the data model for this smart contract. doing the actual integration of the blockchain for that app took them 1 weekend and 4 days of testing. So they were able to use our technology to, in a very rapid way, integrate such a functionality and gain benefits that LHoFT has described, but also an increase in revenue and screen time with customers. Another case example is AB InBev. So we've been working with AB InBev, they're the largest brewer in the world. You'll see it's kind of similar to what we saw in the meat example. But again, it's a state machine type smart contract and information throughout the life cycle of going from barley through to the malting process, through to the factory where eventually the product is bottled, is recorded so that consumers can engage with the brand through the app and learn about the journey of the beer as it went through all the stages in production. Now, one thing, this is where the interest in sustainability comes up. So number one, I get benefits for a company. Number one, I have a very engaging app that I can engage consumers with. But the bigger and longer term aim of this initiative is to decrease the carbon and agricultural footprint of the farming process of the barley that goes into the production of beer. Now, how do we do that? Well, there's a number of technologies that are involved. Blockchain is used for its purposes. It's a good tool for collecting this information and being able to retrieve it and prove that the data is not been tampered with. The second thing is AI. So applying AI to all of the data that's collected in order to identify best practices in the network of farmers who supply barley to AB InBev to identify which ones have best practices. So if there's more output per cubic meter of barley from one farmer, what's that farmer doing? And what can we learn from the data that he's providing in order to share those best practices with the rest of the network? And by doing that, there is also the possibility to create a native token for this blockchain network that can then be used to incentivize the farmers to adopt the best practices. So the aim with AB InBev is okay, on the one hand, we have a nice consumer app that they can engage with, but more importantly, we're helping AB InBev to realize their ESG objectives as a company. And I'll leave it with that. So just two quick examples outside of the, let's say, the digital asset space. But definitely we're seeing a lot of interest in supply chain tracking enhancement.
Thank you, Matthew. That's very interesting to hear. And that was an application totally different from the other things we have discussed during this webinar. And I had actually prepared a question similar to that. SettleMint is making the implementation process of these applications easier. That means the threshold for many companies becomes lower. I assume you see more and more interest coming from business sectors that you normally wouldn't expect to see any interest from. Do you have any examples, any other examples of surprise interest that when companies contacted you and said, we are interested to use this technology, that you said, wow, this is totally surprising?
Yeah, maybe one that's interesting, but it's in the shipping business, but in particular in the business of refurbishment of large container ships. So what we were talking to one company in Singapore, and they were looking at using blockchain to record all the maintenance records of the ships that the life cycle of a ship is usually around 7 to 8 years. Then there's a lot of, in that period, there's a lot of refurbishment. And then they want to sell the ship again. What they found is that, according to the study they did or the analysis they'd done, they said, okay, well, we believe that the resale value of container ships will be 7 to 8% more if we can provide immutable truth of the maintenance records. So that was, for me, I was like, well, okay, that's really 7 to 8% more. These things are worth tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars on the resale market. And by doing an implementation over a weekend and 4 days of testing, they can gain that much more. It's a hypothesis still to be verified, but that was a surprisingly significant benefit that they could gain by having, let's say, proper, independently verifiable records of maintenance for shipping containers, container ships. Sorry.
Ships. Well, indeed, that is a sector where you would not expect the interest coming from. Indeed, that's surprising. It just shows that how wide this will and can go. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe if I share one other story, there's in the nonprofit sector, we've worked with it's actually a really interesting implementation because we're working with an NGO called Via Don Bosco. They provide funding to schools in 17 countries, 120 schools in 17 countries. And they have very heavy administrative processes for following up on how the money that they receive in the form of donations, how that's spent. There's a paper process in place that requires 6 different levels of checking in order to verify that money is properly spent. Now, the paper part was one thing. So there's kind of a digital transformation angle, get rid of that paper in the process. Literally, it was taking, once a year, the schools would send boxes on a container ship back to the home country of the NGO, and then the checking starts. So you're 1 year late with checking and verifying. And it's, it was eating up around 4 to 5% of the budget of the NGO just to do this process. So by making that process digital and adding blockchain as a tool for verification, independent verification, we're able to put more money back into the purpose of the NGO, which was funding schools in the developing world. So that was, for me, a really nice one. One part digital transformation, second part verification, third-party independent verification capabilities using blockchain tech. So it was a nice one.
That is indeed nice to hear. And if I'm not wrong, there is a Don Bosco school here in Thailand also. Right. Who will benefit from this? Yeah. So there are also a few questions, and because of the big amount of questions, I have to group them together. But there is quite a bit of questions about NFTs. First part of the question, Luc, when I can come back to you, is if I understand it correctly, that all types of assets can be tokenized. So in theory, it's possible to tokenize a complete apartment or a house or a piece of land. Is that correct?
Yes, it is correct. But usually when you have co-ownership, you create a financial instrument. When you have an asset, a valuable asset with different owners, you need a financial instrument for many reasons. The bad ones or the difficult ones are to pay your taxes, but also for inheritance and basically to guarantee the ownership, to get into the framework of the country where you have these assets and to make sure that the different owners are owners. So if you want to tokenize your house, maybe you don't need a financial instrument. You can tokenize it directly. But for clients, they tokenize not one house, they tokenize a lot of different buildings or real estate projects, new developments. So usually it's packaged, financially speaking, in a financial instrument. And what we tokenize is the shares of the financial instrument, being it a fund or equity or depending. So usually you don't tokenize directly the asset, you tokenize a financial instrument representing the asset. And because it becomes a financial instrument, you have a lot of rules to apply, compliant rules, to onboard investors, to distribute your securities, to manage your securities, etc., etc. So it doesn't change because it's on chain. It's exactly the same thing, except that because it's on the blockchain, you can control everything digitally. So the shares of the company are not on a piece of paper. Everything is on the blockchain, of course, with the right level of confidentiality. You don't have the names of every owner on the blockchain, for example. But with our tools, you can control your assets, your investors, their positions, how many shares they have. You can mint token, burn token, freeze tokens, force transfer tokens. So even if you use a super secure wallet as an issuer, if you control the smart contracts, you can control the tokens. So that's a huge difference with Bitcoins. If you lose your wallet with Bitcoins, nobody can help you. If you lose your wallet with security tokens, you just prove your identity to the issuer and you get them back. So basically what we do is providing a custody solution for security tokens, not because we provide the wallet, but because we provide the management system. So we have a lot of synergies with wallet providers. Actually. Does it answer?
All right. Yes, does it answer? But it was only the first part of the question. The second part of the question goes to Khun Topp, actually, because Thailand has quite strict property ownership rules, especially when it comes to foreign ownership. So one of our viewers was asking, would this be a way around to the limitation of foreigners to own a house with land? Or 100% ownership in a condominium, in a building with many apartments, because until now the rules in Thailand are that only 49% could be owned by foreigners. So through the way of tokenization, Khun Topp, would it be possible to change or massage these laws?
With the recent COVID, impact, the Thai government is adjusting this law to have more foreign ownership. So not 49% now. That's a development, let alone the cryptocurrency applications. But with the tokenization part, foreigners are owning a digital representation of the property. They're not owning the property. Again, it's because of the lack of regulations, right? Playing a catch-up game again on the lands department side. They are not, we cannot legally register like deeds, land deeds or condo on the blockchain yet. It's not legally enforceable on court, right? And what the companies in Thailand are doing is that they are creating a custodian solution, a third party, to make sure that once you tokenize a piece of property, they don't resell it on a dark market and people are buying, reselling air, to make sure that you can have a frozen account for those properties, right? Once you have a frozen account, you can create tokens as a digital representation on those properties, and foreigners can trade, can co-own, can share, right? Time sharing on those properties going forward. So you're not buying and selling the property, but you're buying and selling a digital representation of the property.
Part of the property. All right. Okay. Then I have one more general and quite interesting question, and it's something that Emilie touched upon at the very start of the webinar. It's about the medical world, and the question was if blockchain can help to safely store and exchange patient information and medical history between doctors, hospital, and insurance companies to make that process faster and more convenient. As Emilie touched upon this, maybe I ask her first to comment on to this, and then anyone else who thinks he or she can give more comments, please join.
Yes, thanks for the question, Mark. Well, indeed, there are a lot of applications at the moment, and a lot of projects have been developed. We are supporting one project in Luxembourg. The lab is helping one company that is trying to certify, especially, right now in the process of the supply chain of medical masks in the times of COVID, but they could apply the solution to as well and ensure that the drugs are not counterfeited. So this is one first application, and we are seeing a lot of solutions, especially in the US, where the patients' data are being currently worked upon the blockchain, and where everybody could work together, the hospital, the doctors, and the insurance companies. So I hope to see a lot of developments in this space, and that's really promising.
Right. Is there anyone else of the speakers who would like to add something to this?
Just a quick remark. As we say, the blockchain is to transfer value mostly, not to transfer information. We have the internet to transfer information. So on the blockchain, you will not have the data from all of the patients, for example, or that kind of things. But what you can have on the blockchain is proof certified by someone that can be trusted, like a doctor could say, okay, I verified this person, for example. I think with the COVID checks and so on, it's COVID passports, and that's great examples. You can put that on chain and say that someone you trust, a trusted entity, sign on the blockchain that they verified an information. And nobody can say that this information was not verified, because on the blockchain, you cannot change the data. It's forever. But the blockchain is not a good database. It's not a very powerful computer. It's a very slow computer, but that nobody can change or update.
Well, I can imagine that insurance companies may be interested in information that cannot be changed. I mean, we all know the situation when the doctor asks how many alcoholic beverages you drink a week. We all say a few less than what is reality. But insurance companies may be interested to know your history, your medical history, without the possibility that it has been changed.
Yeah, there is one application that is being investigated right now, and it concerns the prosthetics. When you have, for example, a hip replacement or so, there is a possibility to trace all this information, and it would be possible to put this information on the blockchain. So if there is a need for replacement or any issue with the medical equipment, then you would be able to trace the patients that are targeted by this.
Can I add one extension? I think one extension on that from a usability perspective. So I think what Luc was saying about storing proofs and things like that, that it's an area where we see interest in going further with that is with prescription drugs. So if I have a prescription for diabetes medication, typically I have to go back to the doctor every time and get a piece of paper that tells me that you know, I can go to the pharmacy with and then buy the medication that I need. But putting that as a proof in the wallet of an individual that doctors verified that they need, they're entitled to this type of medication for diabetes type 2, for example, that not only does that make that process easier, but it also enables online shopping for things like that. Typically, you know, you need to go to a location to pick the stuff up, but if I can prove digitally that I have a prescription from a doctor, why can't we put prescription drugs online as well? That would be an extension on the concept and make it very useful for society, I think, to not have to go to the pharmacy every time you need your medication.
All right. I think we slightly exceeded the time limit of our webinar. I do thank all of our speakers for your time and your contribution. It was all very interesting. I do hope that our participants found this webinar as informative as I did, and that within the head of some of our participants, maybe some idea popped up on how to integrate any of these technologies presented into your business, or that we may be able to establish a new business connection between one of our participants and the companies that were presented here. The webinar was recorded and all participants will receive a link to view it again if you like to, and the link will also be posted on our Bellutai website. So thank you very much all for your participation, and now I wish everyone a nice evening or good continuation of your working day over there in Europe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.